Law PLLC is 100% native owned and operated, founded by Varen Coenvioma. Their practice areas include corporate law, business transactions, finance, economic development, gaming, casino development, online gaming, real estate, environmental permitting and approvals, telecommunications, government affairs, employment and labor relations, historic preservation and cultural resources, and energy. Coenvioma Law is committed to making positive and lasting change in our communities as they support nonprofit volunteering, community activism, and employing Indian preference in hiring and vendor relations. You are now listening to the Carl and JMan Save the World podcast. I am your host, the 5-star, 5-diamond chef JMan. And with me, not tough like Gua, is Carl.
Hey guys, what's going on? It's great to be back here in the studio again. And yes, I am tough like Gua because this is from the Veni skateboard company. And
nice.
And he actually has a podcast. So go ahead and listen to Veni podcast. He's a really great guy.
And full disclosure, Carl is wearing a shirt that says tough like Gua, which I don't believe. I think Gua is a lot tougher than he is. But we're back. We're back with episode 3, right? We're back with episode 3 season 9.
Yeah.
And the first 2 episodes are doing really well. And so I think that our Mexican pizza / Taco Bell tactic really worked out well, because then, all the listeners came back listening in droves, bringing you back another episode today. And one of the things that we definitely wanted to promote is that on this Friday,
yes,
at 2:30 regular time,
Hopi time,
advertised for 3:30 Navajo time, in Tuba City, you and I will be for the first time doing a live podcast episode. And so most of you guys who are eager to listen to these episodes as soon as they come out are listening to this on October 5th. So in just a few days, we're going to be on stage.
Just a few days, we'll be upstage. On the main stage in the blazing heat, sweating it off and talking about, I have no idea what we're going to be talking about.
Are you excited? Are you nervous?
I'm nervous. I'm a little bit nervous. I have never done this before. I've always been in the backstage area.
Because when most podcasts do a live podcast, they're usually in their own studio.
Yeah.
And usually they're like on Facebook or something.
Yeah.
Within the comforts of just what their normal setting is. But you and I will actually be on stage.
We'll be talking in front of a crowd.
I hope we'll be talking in front of a crowd.
Or just maybe Seoul.
So if you're in the area, please fill up those seats, because at the moment I anticipate only Seoul and hopefully the Riz famous wife will be there. But aside from those two, I'm not really too sure who else is going to be there. But we'll be there.
Your kids don't really support
on Friday 7th. They'll be riding rides. They don't care to listen.
I don't care about dad's stuff here. Where's that 12-footer hot dog that they always been talking about?
Where's that Rambo set they were talking about in their last podcast episode?
Exactly. So, kids don't care about us. They don't care about what we say.
And then most of our friends too, they don't care about us either. They just care about Maya and 112.
Yeah, they're going to be like, I'm not going to go watch these two guys just talk.
They're going to show up on Thursday. It's like, so when does MC Magic come on? They're like, oh, that was the night before.
You know what kind of occurred to me is that why would you go to a fair to go watch two dudes talk in front of people, like, rather than just like listening to somebody? Like, I mean, like, we're not famous enough to like, hey, here's my signature. This is worth something in the future. Like, why would you go and watch like two unknown dudes just go up there? It's like, oh, I'm just waiting for the drag show.
Well, that's why the Pizza Edge Pizza is going to be there. It's like a mouse trap, right? Like, mouse doesn't
I guess that
walk
is true.
into a trap on its own. That there's something there to attract it, and our bait is the pizza.
Yeah, they're probably like, I just support Pizza Edge. So.
Because then it's going and suffering and listening to us for 1 hour, but you get free pizza. Versus standing in a line for 30 minutes to pay $30 for a fry bread, a huge ass corn dog.
They'll probably just
Twister's lemonade.
They sit down and They sit down and they get their pizza, and I was like, "Oh, can I get this to go?"
Where's you guys got tinfoil?
You guys got tinfoil? Okay, I'll take this to go. But the show hasn't even started. I don't know these guys. I just saw free pizza and I just sat down.
But so that is happening this Friday.
Yeah,
this Friday. This Friday.
I don't know. I don't know if it's going to be like a crazy to get into the fair thing. I don't think so, right? Because we're not huge headliners.
Well, today, in your world, today is Wednesday.
Yeah,
and people are already reserving their seats for the parade.
Okay.
So I assume that it's going to be a crazy weekend starting today, Wednesday.
Yeah.
Starting today on Wednesday.
Yeah.
Going all the way into the weekend. I think it's going to be a crazy ass weekend.
Yeah. Yeah.
And we get to be a part of it. We get to be a part of it. We get to be on the same stage that Nelly performed. We get to be on the same stage that Juvenile performed. We get to leave our mark, and then Maya on Sunday comes in and she gets to see where our mark is.
I'm just going to leave my phone number up there just in case.
You're going to Cecilka your phone number on the stage for Maya to see. You're probably going to eat something that turns your Cecilka blue or something so that I'm just going to scrub it off.
I'm just going to start scribbling my number on there. Hey, this is for Maya.
But anyway, so we do have a topic today.
All right.
We do have a topic today, and it's kind of a smorgasbord of several topics that we've talked about prior, but kind of some stuff that kind of happened recently that kind of got me thinking. And, I think one of the topics that I wanted to talk about again, because we did talk about this idea of Hopi patriarchy.
Okay.
And I remember that I made this declaration about patriarchy. I said that, I don't think that exists on the reservation. I said that I think that for the most part, Hopis out here, we live our life according to what the old rules used to be, that we respect our matriarchs, that we support and uplift this idea and this place that our women sit on. But then I realized that I was wrong.
Oh, okay.
I was really wrong. And then as I talked to community members throughout the villages out here on the reservation, I realized that I was full of shit when I made that declaration.
What was
and that patriarchy is alive and well here on the reservation.
Yeah, that's what I said. The patriarchy part of it is very, very alive here on the reservation. I mean, we have the patriarchal, what is it, the movement in Hotvela, where it's just all dudes over there
trying to start a sausage group.
Trying to start World War III or whatever.
But we did talk about this kind of previously on an episode, but I think we kind of just mentioned topics and didn't really do a deep dive into exactly talking about it. And one of the things that I've encouraged you and trying to do it myself too is kind of to bring a little bit more of our personal lives, at least as far as supporting some of these ideas that we talk about, to trying to get them pushed through. And so, at least in regards to this idea of patriarchy, because one of the things that we talked about in a previous episode when we talked about this was that we talked about how culturally women technically own most of everything.
Yeah.
And we mentioned that when it comes to lands that villages reside on, that the women have control, and so you live in a home, it belongs to your mother or it belongs to So'o.
Yeah.
And that when So'o or mom passes it on down, they pass it on to the eldest daughter.
Yeah.
And that so it stays within
the clan family.
The clanship.
Yeah.
It stays within the clanship because, we are a matrilineal society. And, but I guess really the reason why I kind of wanted to talk about this again is because, I was out home thinking about things like I normally do and kind of realized some things. And we made brief mention of this in that previous episode, specifically when we were talking about patriarchy, but we talked about how the fields are no longer being handed down, I guess, from taha to nephew.
Yeah.
But rather they're now starting to be handed down from father to son.
Yeah.
Which is in contradiction to the matrilineal aspect.
Because the son is not
our cultures. Yeah. And I guess, really, I guess all of that happens for different reasons. It happens for different reasons. And I guess that kind of got me into this other thought process is because in our last episode, we talked with our special guest, primarily fixated on the Navajos, and that, our guest, he made this statement that Navajos are very diverse.
Yeah.
And that,
Yeah.
not all of them follow
the tradition,
the blessing way,
the traditional way.
But
Yeah.
a lot of them are Christians, and within that Christian umbrella, that there are very differentiating Christian sects that they all belong to, etc.
Yeah.
And then we made this declaration that we said, for the most part, Hopis believe in kind of really just one way.
Yeah.
But then there's a small section that are starting to cross over to the Christian side. But then even, this whole thought process that I had is that I don't think that's true. I think that Hopis are diverse as well.
That I think because last week's guest, he was talking because I wanted, because I asked him about like the traditions, if it was dying or if it's dead in other ways, because in parts of Hopi, some of the traditions are dead. We don't practice those types of the traditions anymore. The deeper stuff. And his response was like, no, it's not dead. And I would say to us that yes, our traditions are dead. Some of them are dead because we're not practicing them anymore. We just look at them in books and we just kind of honor them in that way. There's maybe one or two villages still kind of practicing it, but not, forwarding with that whole idea of Hopi tradition. And I think that the same way with Navajo tradition, they kind of, it's kind of similar, because some of that Navajo tradition is kind of dead and they're not following it. They kind of just honor it, kind of like. So that's why it's what he kind of said, like it's, they're kind of diverse in that whole way like that.
And I think that's kind of the difficulty that I'm having today. And I guess really trying to come up with one name for the topic of the episode, because I feel like what I want to talk about, it encompasses a lot of different factors as the reason as to why things are the way that they are. And especially in regards, specifically what I wanted to talk about is that I wanted to talk about how the field situation is out here now. And what you just said, I think is also attributes to why the field situations and a lot of other things within our culture are the way that they are now. It's the fact that because things out here culturally are starting to go away, or to phrase it the way you did, are dying, quote unquote, dying. And, at least in regards to the fields, because I guess technically how it should go is that when fields are inherited, not even necessarily inherited, because then the fields always belong to the clan. But as far as who works on it, Taha works on the field. And then when Taha can no longer work on the field, the nephews take over. And then they work on the field. And then when they get old and when they can no longer continue, then they pass it on to their nephews.
Yeah.
But I think that that's kind of been disrupted. And in place, what's happening is that a man takes over a field. And I think what's happening is that the men are no longer as close to their nephews as they were in the past. And because of how we live now, a man is most closest to their son.
Okay.
And so now the fathers are teaching their sons all of this cultural stuff. And then they're also teaching them field stuff. Because then as a father, and I do this practice myself, is that I take my son with me to the field. And so I'm teaching my son what I know about farming. And so he's learning it from me rather than learning it from his uncle, who he should be learning it from. And so I think that because now Hopi men are starting to have this relationship with their sons today, instead of this relationship that they should be having with their nephews, that's in turn why the fields are going to the sons instead of the nephews.
I go with Kwa to the field because it's less work, and then I don't go with my Taha because he makes me work at the field. So that's the reason why. That's the whole reason why I do that.
Well, I guess the reason why, what might help make this make more sense.
Okay.
Is that, I went I was in my own village, and my taha was nice enough to let me use part of the field for my own family.
Okay.
So I was sitting there in the field really thinking about it, because then we talked about we had this whole episode talking about what happens when you come home.
Yeah.
And because then, growing up as a kid, you're told this is how it's supposed to be. That you're a young boy, you're going to grow up, you're going to marry a Hopi woman, you're going to live out here on the reservation, you're going to raise Hopi babies, and then this is the way that you're going to do it, and then life's going to be good, you're going to die, and then you're going to go to Hopi heaven. But the reality of it is the fact that because a lot of disruption within our practices has been caused by things like assimilation, things like relocation, things like language and cultural decline.
Yeah.
That things aren't the way that it's supposed to be anymore. Even though we're preached that this is how you're going to live your life, but the reality is that when you want to live your life that way, it's not really going to be like that.
Yeah, I guess so. I guess you kind of have a point there. I mean, like, yeah, because I grew up on the reservation. I grew up like I'm like a
you
true.
Grew up in Tuba.
I grew up. I'm like a true res kid. I
You're
ate
a true Tuba boy.
I ate dirt.
Played with all the Tesavas.
I played cowboys and Indians, and
Played inside most of the time.
I was a cowboy because I hated the Indians.
Watched Ladmo all day.
I still have the Ladmo bag, but that's another story though. But anyway, I grew up and I went to college. Yes, I went off the reservation, went off there, learned what I needed to learn, came back, and still had that mentality to say that, yeah, I'm still a native, a Hopi native here, and I still know a lot of stuff like that. I guess it's where, like the urban Indians, like the ones that actually go off the reservation for jobs, for a life, and then try to come back and then try to integrate themselves back into society or back into Hopi society or any type of native society. And that's where it kind of gets muddy and muddled. And that's where like a lot of the cultural appropriation kind of comes out, where all of these different types of things like, I thought, I read this in a book somewhere, isn't it supposed to be like this? And we're like, no, I don't even know what a book is. You're like, you're a true native. I don't even know what a book is. And I guess it's where you're trying to you're trying to go back to your roots. Like not Kunta Kinte roots.
And I guess, based off of the example that you gave, because like this theme is littered through all our entire podcast.
Oh, yeah.
Like we talk about the housing issue. We talk about there's no places to live out here. And so anytime somebody moves off the reservation and that they move back home, it's like you're trying to continue to cramp yourself into an already cramped can, I guess.
Yeah.
Sardines.
Yeah.
Like we're all crammed in here like sardines in the first place, but then people come home and then that sardine can gets even more cramped. And more than likely that when you're coming back, inadvertently you're taking something away from somebody else.
Yeah.
Without meaning to.
Yeah.
Because you just want to come home. You just want to come home. You just want to live the life of a Hopi and then be a part of everything else that's going in. But I guess, and I keep bringing it back to this whole field thing, is that because, your whole life you're told that you're going to go off, you're going to marry a Hopi woman, and then you're going to grow corn for her in her own field.
Yeah.
But sometimes, what if the woman that you marry
doesn't want corn and wants McDonald's more? That's the whole thing too.
But what happens that if the woman who you marry, their family situation, that there's no cornfield to just walk right into. But yet, marrying a Hopi woman, that she needs corn.
Yeah.
They need corn for everything that it is that a Hopi woman does to feed their relatives, for payments, for their children, for certain things that happen. And so that a Hopi woman needs corn.
Yeah.
And so oftentimes that there are situations where families don't have a cornfield readily available for an in-law to walk into in a perfect situation. I guess really that's what I'm trying to get into, is that these perfect situations that we're preaching to our Hopi children, that they don't really exist.
They exist in a book.
They don't really,
they exist
only
in the book.
exist in the book.
Yeah.
And so I guess,
and in the urban Hopi's minds as well too. So
and so, like, because I was thinking about it, because like I said, I was at home working in this plot that my uncle let me use. And I really started thinking about it, and I really started thinking about my own family, because then, that's how it's supposed to be. It's supposed to be, you get married, you work in your wife's, their cornfield. And I really started thinking about it. And, I love my family to death. I have to say this, I love my family. I'm very fortunate to be a part of the family that I am, but I'm going to talk about them now for a bit. So I got to say those things first.
Okay.
And so I was thinking about all the men in my family that are in relationships, are married to other Hopi women. And I thought about it, and I was thinking about all the men, and I was like, wait a minute. Out of all these men in my family, really, you could only make an argument that only one of them actually works in the cornfield that belongs to the person that they're with.
Yeah.
And then, because all of the men in my family are farmers.
Yeah.
That they all engage in this farming lifestyle. But a lot of them work in fields that they inherited either from their parents somehow. And so it was kind of an interesting thought process, and I had to think about it. It's like, is this like this everywhere else? You know what I mean? And I think that it's probably a pretty common occurrence.
Well, if you're not a married man and you want to plant, you go through the clan fields.
Your own clan.
Your own clan. Yeah, your own clan fields. And you keep doing that, even if you are married, you still go to the clan fields to plant for your sisters or your mom or your clan, basically. And then you plant again for your wife, and that's
technically,
that's in the ideal
married.
Yeah, technically,
if you're married, your sisters are no longer your responsibility.
True.
Because then your 100% responsibility is supposed to be to your wife and their family.
Kind of.
Not kind of, Carl.
No. If you were okay, so tell me, if you were a real Hopi true man, coming from an urban side, when you came back home, did you see that as like strange?
To start planting for your wife's family?
Wife? Yeah.
No, not really. I don't think so.
Oh yeah.
I think because
did you read it in a book?
I think because
Did you read that in a book?
I heard it in a presentation somewhere. No, but I think that because we're told that our whole lives.
Yeah.
That you're prepared for it.
You are preparing for your wife, and you're preparing for your family like that. But again, if your sisters or your mother doesn't have any husbands, or the father is getting old up there, and then you still plant for your sisters. Like some of my tajas still do that. Plant.
The only time that you do that is when you have ugly sisters like I do, and they're never gonna get married. Then I guess somebody has to feel sorry for them and plant for them. So
I'll plant for them. I'm a great planter. So moving on, it's like I get what you're saying, is that we as Hopi people just kind of do it because we see other people doing it, and it's like sort of like monkey see, monkey do kind of thing. It's like if you're doing it now, then it's okay for me to do it, then.
Well, I not necessarily, but I guess I guess kind of what my thought was. Is because the structure is no longer in place. To support a matrilineal society. That it's starting to diverge and support a more patriarchal society. Because then, I think that a lot of why the structure is disappearing is because we don't all live in the villages anymore.
No.
And I think that back then in the day when everybody lived in the village, it supported that system, that old system. Because then if you need to go see Taha, either he's living in the same house as you, or he's just
hop, skip, and a jump away to where
With
you
his
can get
third
that
wife
education.
or fifth wife. Yeah. Yeah.
Where-
You just go
where
to.
you could get that education that you need.
Yeah.
But this day and age, because now we live outside of the village, we live far away from each other. We don't like to call each other anymore on the phone. We like to text, and
Yeah.
so it's more of a process to go see Taha.
Yeah.
Even though my Taha probably lives less than a mile away from me, I still don't go see him either to go learn his knowledge. But I think really, you know, that kind of supports, I guess, this situation with the fields. But then again, you know, I guess for my example with my family, that because a lot of our menfolk are inheriting the fields, I don't think that it was advertent. Like, I don't think they did it to say that I want this field for myself and just for what I want to use it for. I think possibly that maybe there's just nobody else to give it to. And it's like, you know, you're the only one that plants, so you might as well be the one to use it. And I think that does happen all throughout the reservation. That's another reason why fields are being inherited by sons, is that the nephews aren't planting anymore. And it's like, well, my nephews don't plant, so I might as well give it to somebody that plants.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, like if you ask a kid today, like a Hopi kid, like, would you rather go and help plant with your taha, or would you rather go and play the Wii Switch?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Yeah, they're going to choose the latter part of it. You know, I'm not going to go with taha. It's just like,
Fuck that.
Yeah, it's like, screw taha, man. He has no knowledge.
And, you know, I guess, you know, that's kind of one thing I want to add on this before I move on to the next example is that, you know, I think what makes our this farming situation difficult is the fact that out here on Hopi is that it's dry farming.
Oh, yeah.
And
Yeah.
so if you're a man that marries a Hopi woman, you want to provide the things for her that you're supposed to provide for her. But when there's the middle of a drought, how are you going to do that?
Yeah.
Because then the land is no longer supporting this farming practice to be able to produce corn.
Yeah.
And so if you're living out here, you're kind of SOL.
True.
And then it gets to a point to where you're purchasing the corn because they still need the corn. I swear to God, there's like 10 Hopi weddings that have happened this fall already.
Yeah.
And there's 10 more that's going to happen before the year
I
ends.
have no idea where they're getting the corn.
And
at.
I don't know where the corn's coming from.
It's probably coming from that Navajo pride.
And I
thing.
think people are starting to sell sheep to each other. So there's like sheep that were involved with 4 different weddings.
the sheep that
were lucky
that
enough
even get killed
to
yet.
not get butchered for
They're
one of
like-
the weddings.
They're like, I could just see a sheep was like, damn, we're going to another wedding again. So like,
We'll do what we did last time.
we'll do
just
it.
Huddle together.
Yeah, we'll just
hang in the corner.
I'll just hang in the corner, Fred. Fred, we got to hang in the corner because we're gonna probably go to the next wedding.
But I guess, you know, that was my field example of like the whole patriarchy thing happening. But I guess, you know, one of the things I kind of want to talk about a little bit more is, I guess, our diversity, because then we kind of made this comment and we said that we weren't really diverse, but I really do think that we are in just thinking about it, because then, like you said, like there are Hopis, men our age and even older, that they don't go to the field.
Oh no,
They don't plant.
no.
People living out here that don't go to the field and don't plant.
Yeah,
And so for whatever reason, they don't have that desire. So that puts them in a category. And then there's guys like us that want to do all the Hopi stuff.
Yeah,
We want to ride all the Hopi rides while we're out here on Hopi land. We want to spend all day long in a cornfield and bake ourselves black and plant seeds. And when we have our ceremonies during the times that we have when we want to participate in that and give ourselves lung cancer while we're in the kiva with all the
smoke, with all the
smokers
cigarette smokers
that are in there. And so, you know, we have that desire to be a part of these things. And, you know, at some point, I do want us to have this episode where we talk about Christian Hopis.
Okay.
And have a guest that to come on that has devoted themselves to the Christian faith and to kind of talk about why they made that decision. But some of us, we're devout Hopi religious people, because then, we do these things that we believe that we should be doing because the gods told us to do it.
Is Hopi a religion, or is it just the culture part of it? It's just, I don't know. I don't know how to define a religion.
That's something that I still struggle with to this day, because then, there are
get your book out.
American Indian studies people out there.
Yeah.
And they try to argue that natives were not religious people, but rather were spiritual. But then everything that I've ever learned about religion, I feel like that we're kind of like that as Hopis.
Yeah.
The fact that we do pray to gods, that we do believe in this concept of a god,
gods,
and that we do things to try to ask for prayers, ask for blessings from these gods.
Yeah.
And so, to me, I feel like that isn't that a religious practice?
Yeah, I guess you could say that. I guess that
a religion.
I guess you can kind of define that as a religion because Christianity is believing in a spirit, God,
a
holy father. It's believing in the afterlife. It's believing in, I guess a mainstay of self-righteousness. And I guess you can define Hopi as the same way. So I think that we could comfortably say that Hopi is a religion.
And I mean, at least on the surface, I would say so.
Okay.
I would think so.
What would we call ourselves?
Hopiites?
No, Hopianity. We're Hopianities.
The Book of Hopi.
The Book of Hopi.
But and see like that though, like not everybody that claims to be Hopi is like that.
Yeah.
It's just like the Christians. You got Christians that go to church Sunday through Sunday.
Yeah.
Because there's something on Monday, there's something on Tuesday, there's something on Wednesday, there's something on Thursday, etc. Like they're devout. Like they're devout Christians. Devout Christians. And then yet you have these people that say, oh, I'm a Christian, but then they're getting hammered on Mill Ave on Thursday, on a Friday, on a Saturday, and then they show up to church hungover on a Sunday.
And then pray for forgiveness.
And then pray for forgiveness on the Sunday. But yet Hopis were the same way, that you have Hopis out there on social media world that are about this Hopi life. But when they come home,
they're like, ooh, what are you guys living? This is how you live? Where's your toilet? And it's like, it's about a mile away. Ooh.
And then even out home, you have Hopis that live here, and it's kind of the similar thing too.
Yeah.
They're not as devout, I guess. They're not as hardcore about it, because then you can tell, you see it.
So how would you define like really devout Hopis? They're always wearing a loincloth or what? Have your hair cut in that, the Hopi way.
In December, they
always
have kotzve on their foreheads.
There's a bunch of sana on there. And
in January, they go take their pahos and they don't post about it.
That's the devout part.
Those are the devout ones.
Man,
they're the ones that are about it. They're the ones that let's see. Trying to think of what other taboos there are out there about Hopi.
They're the ones. They're the ones who don't take pictures of their cookies.
They're the ones that do napna after every meal.
Yeah.
They're the ones that they go on a long trip and then they say "Kwak kwai itam iki."
Yeah, I do that.
"Kwak kwai in the bitte."
Yeah, I do that every time every time I go home from here.
They go kaivato every morning. I would say they're
like
those
the
are
devout,
kind of the signs of a devout Hopi.
I guess you could say I'm a devout Hopi.
But you wake up in the morning.
I wake up early enough.
How devout? Why you think you're
the
devout?
sun kind of just kisses my lips every now and then. The sun girls kind of kiss my lips a little bit.
Yeah, I don't think you're. When you wake up, that's when it becomes dark, because then they don't want to look at you. So
But I guess you could say that because
When you wake up, that's when it's winter, because then all the snake girls go back into their homes for the winter. They don't want to see you.
I'm burrowing after them. But I guess you could say that like Hopi in a way is you have to dedicate yourself. You have to really dedicate yourself in order to be a real Hopi. You can't just be Hopi part-time. You know, like what was that Sherman Alexie part-time Indian or whatever it was called is one of his books. Yeah, you know, it talks
exactly.
Yeah,
exactly.
You can't just go off the reservation, make your living there, and then come back and say that, oh, I'm going to be Hopi for a weekend, and then go back again and then live your life like that. It doesn't work like that. I guess in a perfect world it could work, but in like the Hopi world, it doesn't work like that. You're either Hopi or you're not Hopi. I guess that's what I'm trying to say.
Well, I guess counter to that, the reason why I brought up, I guess, religion as kind of an example too, is that there is no more black and white anymore. More is you are this, and if you're not this, then you're that anymore.
Yeah.
And I think that, and this all ties in together somehow. I swear it's just, I'm having a hard time looping it all in. But to me, it's like all these different variables that we talked about at the beginning, those are the reasons why that we're diverse now. Because then you have the devout Hopis, most of them living on the reservation. I imagine that maybe there's some that live in the urban areas. You have a group of Hopis that farming isn't really that important to them. Mm-hmm. Because then I had to have this thought too. It's like, what if I didn't marry my wife?
Okay.
What if I was still a single man out there?
And what if I married your wife?
she would be living a very hard life.
She'll be leaving Easy Street. They're like, hey, babe, we're going to go get some corn. We'll have the kids do the back nine.
But I had this thought too. It's like, what if I didn't marry my wife, and what if I was still a single man?
Okay.
Would farming be important to me?
Probably not.
Then probably not.
Yeah, probably
not. Because then you're like talking about my sisters.
Yeah.
And you know, who's gonna farm for my sisters? My dad farms for them.
Yeah.
My uncle farms for them. So they're taken care of. And so like I would be more fixated on
Scottsdale,
pursuing strengthening my life as assimilated Hopi man.
Yeah.
Because then I'd probably be working for a third degree. I'd probably be trying to be a CEO of some native organization in Phoenix. Like I'd probably be trying to, be the man on campus when it comes to all the urban community of Phoenix. Like that's probably legitimately what my life would be like. But
if you didn't marry,
of the I don't want to say situation, but because of the blessings.
There you go.
That I'm in.
Good save.
That now,
very good save.
That now this is my concern. And so I guess that's kind of like this argument that I have is that we are a diverse people. Because as Hopis, for every person in this world that calls themselves Hopi, are the hierarchy of what we deem important, it differs.
Yeah.
And a lot of that has to do with our own personal situations now.
Yeah.
Because now we don't all live in the villages.
No.
Some of us, we live in Tuba. Some of us, we live in Flagstaff. Some of us, we live in Winslow. Some of us, we live in Phoenix. Some of us, we live in Albuquerque. And for those of you that do still live in the village, our priorities then are different. Because then if you're living in Hotvela that has no electricity, if you're living in Lower Munkapi that has no electricity, winter's coming, you're prioritizing going for wood now.
Yeah.
But then if you're living in Tuba where you can just flip a switch and it gets hot.
You get hot, yeah.
Then you're not prioritizing that. If you're married to a Hopi woman and she needs corn, this time of the year now is important because you're focused on the harvest. If you're a single Hopi man with no obligations, that becomes less of a priority to you.
Yeah. Just flip a switch and corn's there. No, I get what you're trying to say. Is like, our lives could have been different. Our lives could have been way different in how we see Hopi in the traditional way versus as a non-traditional way. Like what you were saying, if you weren't blessed with your wife, and if I was blessed with your wife, if you were blessed with like a CEO of a company,
Yeah.
and that would be prioritizing yourself, but yet you would come home and still do the traditional practices, not caring about about the real traditional part of the Hopi way, and saying that hashtag Hopi on Instagram all the time, and then go back and be the CEO of something like that, rather than being married into the culture, rather than being married into the religion. Then your priority changes is like that. And I guess that's what you're saying, is that yes, we do prioritize on different types of different situations, and we prioritize ourselves in that way. And so like with that, I mean, like a lot of us like Hopi men base ourselves on the religion itself like that, because we do a lot of Hopi religion. We do a lot of Hopi traditional things, ceremonies and stuff like that, not just for ourselves, but for the other people. And there are a lot of married men out there, like what you said, that don't really have that priority to have a cornfield for their wives, because they can buy it easily from like maybe their brother who is doing that, or maybe their uncle.
Do you think that the married men out there, do you think they're concerned about having corn for their girlfriends on the side?
Yeah, maybe, yeah. If you have like, hey, this is a secret spot that I just.
Well, I guess because we're kind of close on time, but
yeah.
One of the things that I kind of wanted to talk about is that because I guess establishing that everybody prioritizes their life differently now.
Based
upon their position now within Hopi. And so I think that always the biggest challenge is for every single person that calls themselves Hopi, how do we then try to build a better future for Hopi with the diversity of people that is Hopi?
Well,
because then, like for example, on my sheet, this was a talking point back when we were still talking about patriarchy. Now we're talking about something completely different.
Okay.
But like one of the things that's always been a big topic, and we've talked about this numerous times, is enrollment.
Yeah.
Is that, we talked about traditionally that the enrollment process was through your mother.
Yeah.
And if your mother's not Hopi, then
you're not considered a Hopi.
Hopi.
Yeah. It's plain and simple.
But in this day and age, because the enrollment is now, it's a quarter. Yeah. Regardless of whether it's from your mother or your father's side. And back when we were still talking about patriarchy, that was going to be my question, was the fact that Hopi men enroll their children. Is that an example of Hopi patriarchy?
Yeah, I guess you could say
that's happening today. Yeah. But then because of this conversation that we just had, that because everybody's lives are different now, and that we have to recognize that everybody's lives are different now, and that the diversity is there.
Yeah.
Because you are going to have people that strongly argue. You're going to have Hopi men that strongly argue for their children to be Hopi. And, for whatever reason. And that you're still going to have people that argue, no, it's supposed to be matrilineal, because that was the way. And so how then do we have all these people that think different things? Where's the common ground to where we can start moving and start strengthening some of these stuff that needs strengthening out here? Like language, for example. Like everybody would probably want to bring the language back, whether you live in Phoenix, whether you live out here, whether your mother's Hopi or your father's Hopi, like all these people want to strengthen language. And then so, that's kind of like a huge common ground. And maybe that's the solution. Maybe it's identifying what the obvious common issues are that people want solved. I would say language is probably one of them. Housing is probably one of them, because then, you do have people that want to live out here.
Yeah. Yeah.
Crazy people that want to live out here for some reason. Even just general education. We want a strong K through 12 educational system, you would think that that's probably an obvious
that
common
is
ground.
a very obvious
People
thing.
like you that want a fair for our sheep that we gave up during the livestock reduction. And so, maybe that's the way. But I guess really, kind of my long rant for this whole episode is talking about the diversity, is that we are a diverse people. Because then, I think that you could start from the top and then you could just break it down through all these levels like Hopis, and then urbans versus res Hopis, first Mesa Hopis versus second Mesa Hopis versus third Mesa Hopis. And then it's just we're so complex. And I guess, and so we were wrong to say that Hopi wasn't diverse, because we are diverse. And even when you think about the Hisut time in the long ago, even back then that they were diverse people.
Remember the cat, Larry the cat? He had a column in the Hopi Titivini.
Oh yeah.
And he stated that we are such a close culture here on the Hopi reservation. We're such a close type of people that we do things in one. We're actually one people, but we're miles apart from each other in the way of our religion. We don't believe in the same types of things that other people do, but yet we're still one people. And it's kind of hard because like Zuni has one culture, one thing. They only have one village. Mm-hmm. Hopi has 12 villages around here. There are 12 villages. Mm-hmm. And each village has their own way of doing the same culture, same religion. It's so strange that we can understand that, but yet then we're so confused on why is it being done like this? I understand why you guys are doing this, but why do you do it like this? Mm-hmm. It's that same kind of diversity. And yes, it is diverse. We're very, very diverse, but yet we're so apart from each other. We don't know each other in that aspect way. And yet we call ourselves Hopi as one people. Mm-hmm. Yet we're like, I don't know that guy.
And it's interesting because I think that the reason why we struggle is that because we want to hold on to the real old concepts. And not really understanding that we could develop new concepts for ourselves. Yeah. It's like we're in this position to where we want to use the same toaster that we grew up on. But then when we come into adulthood, that toaster's no longer functioning properly.
Yeah.
But yet we still want to use the same toaster because we think that that's the toaster that we're supposed to use.
We're so used to, yeah.
And I guess for a contemporary example, I had a conversation with a colleague, and we were talking about Hopi.
Yeah.
We were talking about like Hopis and our understanding of who we are today.
Yeah.
Especially with how our ancestors, the life that they lived. And, she was telling me, she was like, we're holding on to these old concepts with our lives because we think that this is how it's supposed to be.
Yeah.
And her example was saying that, we live in these villages and we don't want to leave those villages. We want to leave our villages where they are because to us that's important, because to us that has history, because to us that's where we've always lived.
Yeah.
But then her argument was saying that, well, the Hisatsino, they moved all the time.
Uh-huh.
They moved from one place to another place based upon whatever the earth was telling them. They'd move to one place, they'd grow their corn. When it stopped raining in that region, then they would just get up and move.
Yeah.
And go to another place until that place no longer suited them. Then they do that. But to this day and age, we'd be terrified of that idea
of going somewhere
else. But then you kind of see it, or at least you're trying to see the development of something similar. And this is a place that you've been bringing up several times, is the Wa'ovi.
Yeah.
This new community.
Yeah.
This new village that they're trying to develop and create, because when you look at our villages here, nobody wants to share land. Nobody wants to put in infrastructure. There's no organization.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
And so, you got some people, well, fuck this place. Let's go start our own village. Let's go create the Wa'ovi and let's go live over here.
Yeah.
And make it to where it makes sense to us in this day and age, I guess.
Yeah, I guess you're kind of right because, yeah, like a lot of Hisatsinom, like, they did, but I guess you're trying to say like, yeah, we were actually finding our home actually, we were actually traveling the world so we can mark our spots that this is going to be part of how Hopi religion came to be. This is where all the clanships, this is where all the religion starts, all of these different starting points like that. And to come to this village or to come to this mesa here, the Hopi mesas that are now the 3 mesas, that is part of our home now. Like back then there were multiple mesas, but now we condense because of like, drought, famine and whatnot.
Well, I guess my argument to that then is that, most recently we went through this drought.
Yeah.
And so then are we going to be the band that's playing on the Titanic?
No, I
we
guess
just absolutely refuse to abandon ship because we've handcuffed ourselves to this place that it's unable, it's no longer suitable to grow corn out here, that we're just gonna stay here because that's what we're gonna do, and we're just gonna not grow corn anymore.
I guess I wouldn't be scared because we have the K-Town store, and we have the new store because they can provide for us. So, and we have Bashish just 60 miles away.
Well, I apologize to the listeners because this episode was starting to talk about patriarchy, and then now we're talking about moving everybody away to the Wa'ovi. And so I don't even know what we're going to call this episode.
We'll just call it like the randomness of
JMan's
Hopi's
rants.
Randomness of the Hopi mind. But I get what you're saying is that yes, we as Hopis are very, very complex. Just like the Navajo culture that is very complex. We are more complex because we have a single religion that we just don't really understand.
I was going to make the joke that if you told that story about the Hisatsina moving from place to place, trying to find here, the Uanasavi that Herschel, our Navajo buddy, would try to figure out how to say that Navajos were a part of that somehow.
Yeah, we circled around you guys several times. But all in all, I mean, like, we're running out of time. I want to get out of here. So do you have anything that you want to say, last words, before we start to go on our journey of raiding the Navajos this time?
To pull one from Carl, if you made it to this point, I congratulate you. And don't forget that this Friday, October 7th at 2:30 our time, right? 2:30 Hopi
2:30 our time, yeah.
3:30 Navajo time, that you can catch us at the Western Navajo Fair at the main stage.
At the main stage and
I've
everything.
promised a couple of people that Carl will be dressed in drag, so.
That's not a bad idea. I want to be named Chocolate. My name's Chocolate.
We have to come up with a Hopi drag name.
Hopi drag name.
Yeah, I don't know what that would be.
Like I don't know. There are several, but I just don't want to say it.
I have to think on that one.
There are several, but it's very bad words. But again, thank you guys for listening to Carl and JMan. If you guys want to donate something, go to anchor.fm/CJ Podcast 85 to become a monthly donor. It's only $4.99 or $9.99 a month. You choose your flavor. Or if you just want to donate $1 or more, go to buymeacoffee.com/CJ Podcast.
If you're not following us on our social media accounts, you can find us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok at Carl and JMan. And don't forget that once our Instagram hits 1,000 followers, we'll be doing another giveaway. So please tell all your family and friends to follow us on Instagram. And if you're listening to this on Apple Podcasts, don't forget to give this a 5-star review, because you're not 5 stars unless your podcast says you're 5 stars.
All right. Well, thank you for listening to Carl and JMan Save the World podcast. My name is Carl, and this is my best friend JMan.
So long. What?